Hi, I'm Steve Becker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with a practice in Westfield, New Jersey, and I have a subspecialty in the narcissistic spectrum disorders. I've written prolifically, blog prolifically on psychopathic slash sociopathic personality. I don't make a distinction between the two. I've written a book called The Inner World of the Psychopath, which is a layperson's guide to what a psychopathic personality is, what makes psychopaths sort of tick, their mentality is what interests me. I've made a number of unscripted YouTube videos, but not one for quite a while. This is the first in a while. And I want to hit the subject of Donald Trump again in this video. And I want to make it very clear that I feel, as I have in some other videos, but I want to make it clear again that to my own alarm, very few clinicians and experts have been willing to go farther, and journalists as well, have been willing to go farther than to describe Trump as a narcissist. That does not explain Trump. There seems to be a constant search for an explanation of the unique personality that he presents in all of its alarming manifestations. And there seems to be an aversion, a fear perhaps, to call him the one thing and the only thing that really does explain him, and that can really sort of render the mystery of what makes him tick sort of history, can render that mystery history. Trump is highly psychopathic. He's a highly psychopathic personality, and it is extremely destructive. It's been destructive that, as I say, that few experts in my field, few journalists who have been equipped to know this as well, even the most outraged of the clinicians and the media and the journalists, have been reluctant to call Trump what he is, which is a highly psychopathic personality. Trump, on last November, America elected a highly psychopathic personality to be its president. And only this, and very well does this explain everything that Trump is. There's nothing that needs to be confounding any longer about what he does, what he says, the attitudes of contempt for all decency, the complete epic levels of untrustworthiness. This is a man whose word means nothing, for whom pathological lying is just a normal, everyday event. This is someone who possesses every personality trait of psychopathic personality at the highest levels. The one aspect of psychopathy that one could argue sort of, Trump doesn't meet would be criteria for criminal behaviors, but even that's murky because it's very, very arguable that Trump has been engaged in various illegalities and criminal behaviors. We don't need to rule on that. We know that Trump has been, an extraordinarily corrupt businessman who has pushed the envelope and screwed countless people over, throughout his, business life, and now as president. Everything that we've seen that alarmingly has captivated, virtually half the country. And as Trump himself said, he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and lose little to no support, and that may have been the most truthful thing that he's said since he's been president. So his grip on his base is its own phenomenon to be studied and explored on its own, and will be. But we know who Trump is, and it has not been explicitly stated, and I am going to say it again, that until there is a recognition a responsible recognition from the clinical world and the journalistic and media world who cover this psychopathic personality who happens to be our president on a daily basis. It's time to stop all the expressions of incredulity, beating around the bush, merely calling out his narcissistic traits, of which, you know, he has more than many. He is clearly a narcissist of astonishing magnitude, but that doesn't preclude us from calling us what else he is, which is a highly psychopathic personality. And it's the only thing that explains the unprecedented, epic levels of his contempt for truth, for decency, the ease with which he pathologically lies, the impulsivity, the callousness, the missing empathy, the missing remorse, the manipulativeness, the pathological means by which he provokes for attention, the slathering to fight and battle and belittle. It's all classic of a psychopathic personality. The transgressive mentality that Trump embodies is exhibit A for the psychopath's mentality. And we no longer need to, feign or astonishment over what he's capable of doing and has been doing, for years, even preceding the campaign. So I'm calling out again the clinical world that has been unwilling to go farther than to label Trump a narcissist and focuses divertingly on how thin-skinned he is and his tremendous ego, as though these things preclude us from calling him, more importantly, what we know him to be and what solely explains his mentality and behaviors and attitudes, that he's highly psychopathic. Trump, in my view, does not need to be loved. I think that's a false, diverting narrative. I don't think Trump needs to be loved. He needs to be adulated. He needs to be feared. Trump does not love anyone and therefore can't value the love of anyone. So this notion that he loves to be loved when he knows that he's in fact despised by many more people than who admire him, it's a myth. It's another diverting myth. He doesn't need to be loved. He needs attention 24/7. He needs to be fighting people. He needs to be slandering, belittling, insulting people. And he needs to be adulated and genuflected to. He doesn't need to be loved. America elected a psychopathic personality for its presidency last November. And it is time that all these eloquent journalists, even the journalists like Charles Blow and Frank Bruni, even the New York Times, some of their wonderful op-ed writers who've expressed eloquent outrage over Trump. None of them has had the stones to call Trump the psychopathic personality that explains him. And until this is recognized, we enable Trump's continuing corruption of the office and all the dangers that he poses in all sorts of ways, domestically and internationally. It's not a political issue. It is about the fact that we have a president who has a highly psychopathic personality and needs to be called out for having one. Only this explains Donald Trump. Not that he's a narcissist. That's too benign. It's too incomplete. And I'm going to keep shouting this message. Trump is highly psychopathic.